This Week in Startups is brought to you by Braintree. Looking to set up payments for your business? Braintree gives your app or website a payment solution that accepts just about every payment method with one simple integration. Plus, we'll give you your first $50,000 in transactions fee-free. To learn more, visit braintreepayments.com/twist. And Invision. Find out why so many hot startups are using Invision to prototype, present, and collaborate on design in real time. Sign up for a 90-day free trial today at envisionapp.com/twist. From the LAUNCH Incubator, Jed Katz of Javelin Venture Partners shares his 52-point Series A checklist. And from Launch Scale 2015, Kyle Hill of HomeHero talks about cultivating a growth culture.
That's what it's all about, man. They said money is the root of all evil. What? Funny how it feeds my people. Yeah. We ain't gonna live like equals until we get the money, spend the money, and defeat you. Yeah. Money is the root of all evil. What? Funny how it feeds my people. Yeah. We ain't gonna live like equals until we get the money, spend the money, and defeat you.
8 years, guys like Jed and I have a lot of wounds, a lot of scar tissue from the great crash of 2000 and then the huge recession in 2007, 2008. We've seen the markets turn off completely for years, not usually 2, but usually over a year, 18 months. And everybody's got this sense that we get one of these every 7 years, and hey, lo and behold, it's 7, 8 years now since the last one. I want every company here to be funded with 18 months of runway. That's my goal for you. So start thinking about how much you plan on burning over the next 18 months and raising that amount and working backwards. If we can get everybody here funded, for 18 months, if something happens, you're all going to survive. The number one reason companies die is the founder quits. The number 2 reason is they run out of money. So sometimes companies will run out of money and keep going because the founder refuses to give up. They have a couple of weeks where they don't meet payroll and they get it back. But almost universally that doesn't happen because founders are not that courageous. They usually give up when the money runs out. So I asked Jed to really just go through what is the most difficult round to close right now. B, C, D, E, easy. Angel round, easy. The seed round and the A round, the 1.5 and the 5, that range is extremely hard. Why is it so hard? Jed's going to explain it to us. How do you get around it? Jed's going to explain it to us. So please welcome Jed Katz.
Thank you. Thank you. So I used to call this the 52-point Series A checklist, and I realized my checklist is probably different than other people's checklists, so I changed it to Jed's. This is going to be a fairly boring but extremely practical talk. And these are just a bunch of pointers on when you go pitch Series A funds like us, what you should be thinking about, what they're going to be thinking about, and the little things that can make a difference. So feel free to interrupt me along the way, and I'm happy to go deeper on anything. That's us. We've done a bunch of deals. This is over the last 7 years. So this is what we're going to cover today. Generally, how to get to yes on Series A with early stage VCs. We're going to cover personal traits you should have, characteristics your business should have. We talked about some of those earlier today. Choosing who to talk to and how to connect to them, super important. Deciding how much to raise, very important. Generally, what you need to show to get to a yes. We're also going to spend some time on avoiding things you might do that would be disqualifiers, ways that you can get to a quick no. Although a quick no is much better than a no that takes forever to come your way, but still, you don't want no. And then just a few extra tricks of the trade that work really well. First, before we get into the checklist, just a few rules of thumb. By the way, forgive me for talking rather quickly, but we have our firm dinner tonight, so I'm going to go through this a little quicker than normal. So the goals of the first meeting are not to get a term sheet, okay? It's to get a second meeting. That's all you're trying to do in the first meeting of Series A. It's not like seed meetings where somebody might write a $50,000 check in, after half an hour of talking to you. You're trying to get a second meeting. You're trying to avoid a no. You're trying to get people really intrigued by you guys as founders, by your product, what you're building, the market size, all the things that are important to them. And generally, you're going to try and determine if there's a match. They're going to determine if there's a match with you. You're going to determine if you like them, you want to work with them, partner with them. The goals of the first pitch are not to cover every single detail about your business. That will take time. They will probably never want to know every single detail, but even the true details will take us several meetings and diligence to get there. They're going to want to know some of the most the most important things to them to decide if it's a quick no or if they should spend more time with you. And the goal is not obviously to get a term sheet in the first meeting, although every now and then that could happen. So this is how VCs should see you. Great communicator. Very important. You need to be articulate. You need to be able to tell your story in a way that that wakes them up. Let's imagine it's 2 o'clock. They just in the afternoon. They just had lunch. They're tired, and you need to get their attention somehow. So you got to be a really good storyteller. You also have to be a good listener, right? They're going to give you feedback. They're going to question things along the way, and the more you represent that you're hearing what they're saying and you're going to apply it, or even if you disagree, you have a good argument back to them. That's really important. Part visionary, part operator. You can't be 100% forest. You can't be 100% trees. Okay, the vision is really important on what you want to accomplish here. But you need to come across that you can execute on this, that as an operator you can actually get this done. Something that's very important to our firm is that you're data focused, you're metrics focused, you study what goes on with your business, and you can iterate along the way. The more you show that to us, the more that we will trust you, really, and trust your ability to see what's happening with your business and make adjustments. We look for founders that are sophisticated and very capable, and that doesn't mean that you're 45 and this is your 5th startup. It could mean you're 22. But you have a way of handling yourself. You're going to be able to have conversations with future potential investors. You're going to be able to have biz dev conversations that result in deals eventually. This is not about your age, it's about your abilities. Really important for us. Intellectually honest, transparent. If we think you're bullshitting us at all or trying to sell us or hiding from things, it's just never going to work. If there's something that you're still trying to figure out, you don't know, or something that a competitor's doing you're worried about, get it on the table. Have an honest conversation. The more honest, the more we think it's going to be a great working relationship. Jason referenced Thumbtack earlier. One of the things we liked the most about them when they pitched is when we asked them questions they didn't know, they said they didn't know, and then dove into their database and looked it up, which showed us they're intellectually honest and they're data focused. Scrappy, high velocity. We like businesses that can get stuff out there, iterate on a product and push it, and see how customers react and make adjustments and do things quickly. Especially in the beginning stages of a company, you don't have all the answers. Sometimes you just have to try things and see what works and then make adjustments. But what we don't like are ones that spend 6 months on just discussing every little change they're going to make and then they push it. That's very old school. Hopefully you guys wouldn't do that anyways. Mission driven, passionate, super important to us. You have to be doing this startup for a reason. Like there's a goal you want to accomplish and you walk through fire to accomplish it. And then great at recruiting people. Team is everything at the end of the day, and your ability to bring in other A+ players is going to be the difference between whether you can get huge or just decent. This is how Series A investors should see your business. Very clever, unique, solving a major pain point that hasn't been solved yet, or at least if it's being solved, it's being solved really poorly. Huge TAM, and a true TAM, in the billions of dollars, right? This doesn't mean, if you're building an e-commerce company, you're going to give me the whole market size for all e-commerce, which is, $1 trillion, whatever it is. That's not your TAM, okay, and as you guys know, right? Whatever your true TAM is should be in the billions in order to get a fund of our size interested anyways, which is anything above $100 million fund, let's say. And you should be able to show that that is actually your TAM. Like if you actually get all the customers you're targeting to pay the price you're charging, it does, equal that number. Creating both a substantial revenue stream and substantial strategic value is important to us. So we don't want you, when you succeed down the road, to be acquired for some multiple of revenue. That's just some preset number. That's the industry average, and that's what you're going to be bought for. We want you to be bought for some huge premium to that, because multiple companies have to have you and can't imagine their competitors having you, and thus are willing to pay up for it because of some strategic value that you've created. Lots of leverage is important, potential for explosive growth, with the revenue being able to grow much faster than the expenses. So, kind of scalability.
Hey everybody, let me tell you a little bit about Braintree. It's a full stack payment solution for all your payment types for your customers. Yes, you can do mobile payments fast, easy, seamless, and secure. And you can add it to your apps with just a few lines of code, and then you'll be able to accept Apple Pay, Android Pay, PayPal, Venmo, credit cards, and of course, Bitcoin, everything. And if some other new way to pay people comes along, the Braintree team will support that too. Developers love it, founders love it, because it's got superior fraud protection, fast payouts, and continuous world-class support. You'll have fewer abandoned carts, more sales with Braintree's best-in-class mobile checkout. And their customers include, are you ready for this? Uber, Thumbtack, Hotel Tonight, Airbnb, GitHub, and StubHub. And I'm an investor in 2 of those 6 companies. And you'd be in good company to be in that class of companies. Well, here's a call to action, everybody. They're going to give you $50,000 in transactions fee-free. Yes, that's for the people who are on the This Week in Startups audience. If they go to braintreepayments.com/twist, braintreepayments.com/twist, and you'll get $50,000 fee-free. You can't go wrong with that. Developers love it. It's easy to use. What more do you need to know? Thank you to my friends at Braintree for sponsoring independent media like This Week in Startups. Okay, let's get back to the program.
We already talked about attractive to recruits, but that's, before that was just you personally being able to recruit great people. This is now your business, right? Your business should be one that people are going to want to work for. This is a sexy problem, or it's just so scalable and so explosive, it would be really fun to work on. Very focused. We tend to run away from companies that are trying to boil the ocean and trying to do way too many things at once. And it's fine as you get more mature, you can go into more product categories and expand the business. But at the beginning, you got to do one thing really well. Having great product DNA and great sales and marketing DNA is crucial to us. It's self-explanatory, but if you just have one or the other, the business never grows. So you got to figure out not only what to build, but how to get it out there and how to get customers to want it. And then really hard to duplicate and compete against. Choosing which VCs to approach. Fund size and investment amount must match. Okay, so if you're raising $10 million for your Series A, you're not going to go to a fund that's only $40 million. It's never going to work. Okay. Likewise, if you're raising 2, you're not going to go to a $1 billion fund. That's just dumb, because you're not going to, they're not going to care about you. So think about how much you're raising, what size fund makes sense for this. Identifying a champion is really important for you guys. Without a champion, most deals never get done. You got to find the partner in the firm that he's going to shepherd this through their internal conversations. He's going to help you with your presentation. He's going to give you feedback. He's going to make sure that if there's a question or a risk people see, you have an opportunity to deal with that risk and kind of give us more data why it's manageable. If you don't have that champion, no one's going to care. No one's going to be fighting for you in that internal meeting. You want to find investors where the board member that would be joining your company would actually be helpful and you would enjoy working with, and it's not going to create all this drama. I mean, I've been on too many boards where there's a board member that is just a time suck for the entrepreneur and just creates all the stress where it doesn't need to exist. Create somebody you love working with. Think of them as a partner, as a co-founder. Obviously, it's better if they have relevant experience in your space or a network that can be very helpful. and they're not just an advisor. You have plenty of advisors that you can call every now and then, and they'll help you with their thing. This is somebody you should think about as a constant brainstorm partner. Somebody you can email and call at 10 o'clock at night, any night. They're going to take your call. They're going to, even if it's just a quick 5-minute thing, it's they're in it. They're in your business on a such a frequent basis that they know what's going on, and their advice is actually very relevant. They have the background to not be dangerous. Cultural fit, really important, and we'll be both empathetic and brutally honest. I think Jason's great at that. I mean, everyone knows he is brutally honest, but he also has a lot of empathy for what you're going through and how hard it is to create a startup. And there will be stresses, right? This is not easy. And somebody who's supportive along the way, but will tell you when you're full of shit, or when you're doing something wrong, or you've made a mistake, and then work with you on it. Somebody who can say that in a way that's not offensive to you, but is really helpful to you. And then finally, you'll be meaningful. They'll truly support you. I think I covered that. They'll be meaningful to your fund, to their fund. Excuse me. You'll be meaningful to their fund, meaning. It's a big enough bullet for them where they're going to care, right? If you're so small to the size of the fund and you don't work, you go out of business, they don't really care. It's just a portfolio approach. It's not a big deal. If you're a bigger chunk though, and you're and then you go on to raise the B and the C and you're getting follow-on investments from them, they really care. Then they absolutely want to see this succeed. Try and find somebody right from the start who is going to care if you win. And it's going to be like, as meaningful to them as it is to you. Okay, getting to them. If you can't, this is going to be brutally honest, but if you cannot find a warm intro to the Series A investors, you probably don't deserve to pitch them. Okay, it's too easy. There are too many people you now have in common with your network and with your friends' networks to get to these people in a warm intro. I actually can't think of a time when we funded anything that just came in cold. I don't know if it's ever happened. Maybe it's happened, but I can't think of one. So try and get to us or any Series A investor in a way that is not only warm, but somebody they respect. Whether it's a entrepreneur they've worked with before, or somebody that's been successful, another angel or seed investor that they have a lot of respect for, or maybe they've invested with in the past. Pretty easy to research, pretty easy to do. Whenever possible, start the relationship early. The earlier they know you and can kind of see what you said you were going to build, and then watch you do some of it and create more metrics and learn more and adapt and improve, and then go back to them. And when you go back with confidence, you say, "You've known me for a while now. Now I'm ready for the Series A. I'm starting to talk to firms because you've been following me for a while. I'm talking to you first, but I am going to be out there." That's just infinitely better than going at them, pretty cold the first time when they know nothing about your business. And then obviously you become a known quantity as a person. The better they get to know you as an entrepreneur, the more they have trust in you and can take that step of investing. Keep in mind, a lot of the stuff is about removing risk for them, right? Anything where they can remove a little bit of risk gets you in the, I probably want to do it column instead of, man, that seems scary. There's too many other ones I should focus on. So how much to raise? Jason hit it a second ago, 18 months plus in cash. Just assume you need enough to create some amazing progress, show some real metrics on your business, and then a bunch of cushion to be able to fundraise. Because fundraising takes time, right? And Series A is hard right now. There's just so many things getting seed financing that it's going to be that much harder to raise Series A. Just assume it's going to take a little more time. You need a little more cushion. So whatever you can raise to give you that cushion. And the same thing applies to Series B, by the way. Series B is going to be a little bit harder. So when you raise Series A, raise enough to make it that far plus cushion to show phenomenal metrics, results, etc. Things will always take longer and cost more than you're originally budgeting. You should assume anywhere between a 20 and 33% dilution. That's normal. It changes based on how much you're raising, how far along you are, which investors are coming in. Sometimes it's worth it to get to take the extra dilution, but to work. In fact, very often it's worth it to take the extra dilution to work with the investors you want to work with. Right, at 5 extra points of dilution at the end of the day to get the partner that's going to help you build this is a pretty easy trade-off. Your model should be realistic, if not pessimistic. The worst thing is when the model is just not real. It's way too optimistic. We know you're not going to hit it. You know you're not going to hit it. Even if we invested, the first board meeting is going to be terrible because you would have missed your numbers already. That's not where you want to start off a relationship. Be realistic with yourself. Be realistic with the investors. And it goes back to that intellectual honesty thing. We can tell when it's real. We can tell when you're blowing it up. Stay scrappy. And show that you're going to stay scrappy even after you get the Series A money, right? Show that you're not going to just start massively ramping up before you're ready. That you will, learn and build and understand your business before you really start adding to it. We call that building the machine, by the way. Once you have the machine and you really understand it, then you can pour fuel in there. And then don't raise too much money at a too high a valuation. That's a mistake that's commonly made. Especially in the last few years with some of the earlier rounds that come in at too high evaluations. You get in trouble because if you can't grow into that valuation quickly enough, a down round can kill you, and more often than not, it does kill you. So if you're at too high a valuation already, we just lost lights. You just got to be really careful. It's better to take a lower valuation, something you're going to kind of zoom past and be in an excellent place to raise your next round, than to hope that everything works out perfectly and that high valuation is justified somehow. So we tend to approach these things in a really reasonable way. We don't want too much dilution for you. We want you to be super motivated, and we want you to understand that if you're at too high a valuation, you could get in trouble with it. Okay, getting the yes. We talked about this a little bit. Wake them up. Try and make the partners in the room as passionate about your business as you are. Right? You've done, tonight you did 5-minute presentations, and you're trying to kind of evoke that response. You'll have a lot longer than that in these presentations. You'll probably have an hour, but we'll interrupt you every 3 minutes. But at the end of that hour, make sure you're trying to drive as much passion about the business as you have. Really act like you're trying to recruit them into the company, because in a way you are. Simplify. Don't make it too complicated. Right? We see too many pitches during the day, every day, and by the end of the day, sometimes it's hard to remember the one you saw that morning, especially if it's just too complicated and it makes your brain blow up trying to figure it all out. Simplify the message as much as possible. Demonstrate that you fit in the fund's investment criteria. I actually am very impressed when somebody really knows our criteria before they come pitch us. They've spent the time to kind of learn about us and what we invest in and why, and it means they're in the right room. Product demos, we talked a lot about this during your presentations today, but product demos are super important, and I would do those earlier in the presentation, really at the very beginning. Show what you're doing, and then everything you're saying after that relates back to the product demo. Show that you can see the forest and the trees. We talked about that a little bit. Find your champion. Show that you take feedback. Be responsive. If there's any unanswered questions that day that you didn't know the answer to when you leave the room, get the answers. Go and do the research. Email them as quickly as possible with the answers so there's nothing left where they're wondering before they get to their partners meeting on Monday. And the more organized you are with the diligence, accomplishes two things. It shows us that you actually have your shit together. It also shows us you're probably talking to other funds. Right, and it's always great to show that there's some, competitive thing going on here. The more organized you are with diligence, it sends that signal. Ask for ways that the partners can help. You're choosing your partners also. Okay, so you should be interviewing them too. It should not be the whole hour that you spend there should not be 100% them pummeling you with questions. Some of that time needs to be you pummeling them with questions. And figuring out not just their backgrounds, but what's relevant. What's relevant about their network? What could they add to your business? Right? Why would you want to choose them as a partner? It shows that you're smart. It's impressive. It also ends up being a really good conversation. It shows how we would work together as board members, what the back and forth would be like. Leave them incredibly intrigued at the end, and obviously the single best thing you can do to get a term sheet is create competition. I mean, the more there's a lot of lemmings in the industry, so the more you can show that there are term sheets coming, the more that they'll think this is a credible thing, and that the more serious they'll take it. Okay, now just avoiding quick no's. just some quick things you ought to think about. Be likable. It seems easy, but sometimes you forget it and you're going through your presentation and you forget to actually show personality also. Don't be boring. We've passed on great businesses multiple times because the CEO was just too boring. And it struck us that they would probably have a hard time raising the next round, doing strategic deals, doing an eventual M&A conversation, recruiting people, etc., because they're just boring. So don't do that. And obviously don't oversell.
Hey everybody, let me tell you a little bit about Invision app. I use Invision app all the time with my designer, my product manager, my growth team to share mock-ups of our products. We take those mock-ups and we design them and we send them to clients, to partners, to investors. And we say, here is an Invision link. Open this on your iPhone, on your Android phone, and you can click through and see what this product that we're making is like. And when we're building websites, hey, put your comments on there. We have a partner. We have a big Smart Camp thing going on with IBM, Smart Camp 2015. We can use Invision to share that website and say, hey, is there anything you want to change? And then have a threaded discussion. You can take all those discussions off of email, all those discussions out of the chat room. Listen, email and chat rooms have their place, but not in product design. Invision is like Slack, but for product design, right? So you have Slack for a general conversation. You have Gmail for, asynchronous communication. You have Invision for product excellence. You cannot make a great product without Invision. I am dead serious about that. Every startup I invest in, I show it to them. They ask them to send me links, and boy, does it work. It supercharges everything you do. I love this product. I love this product. I love this product. Get out of email, get out of chat rooms, and do what Twitter, Airbnb, Evernote, Adobe, and many more are doing. Prototype what you're doing in Invision. It just makes designers and teams and founders so much more efficient. Go to envisionapp.com/twist for 90 days free. That's their starter plan, free for 90 days, only at envisionapp.com/twist, envisionapp.com/twist. And everybody thank Invision App on Twitter. I thank them for making a great product and for supporting independent media like This Week in Startups. Let's get back to this amazing episode.
No overly optimistic projections. We talked about that a little bit. Don't underestimate competitors. A lot of people do this. They come in and say, the existing guys are slow and dumb and they can never catch up, and we're going to buzz by them and just own them in 10 days. It's going to be over. And it sounds ridiculous. Oftentimes they're talking about the bigger companies too, like Facebook and Google, and that's fine. But those guys are really smart, and if they choose to truly compete or to hire some all-stars to truly compete and copy you, they could do it if they wanted to. So don't assume they're dumb. Assume they're smart. Assume they're going to be hiring people and they're going to be applying resources toward it. What would you do then? How would you compete with them if they are going to compete? That's what we want to hear. Don't act like it'll be easy. That's a huge mistake. When, look, any startup is hard. But acting like you have all the answers and it's going to take no time at all to get this done will more often than not lead to a quick no for somebody. I don't want you to take the polar opposite and act like something's impossible and you'll probably fail. I think you should admit where it's challenging and where you're going to need help, and the things you're going to be focusing on to really nail this opportunity, and maybe some of the people you're going to need to recruit to nail this. Show patience. Don't be overeager. Use time to your advantage. Okay, if you seem like you have to get an answer from the fund in the next 3 days because you're going to run out of money, or you're just feeling flustered about everything, they're going to run the other way. Okay, show patience. Work with them. It's a relationship building game. Get to know them. Get them excited about the business. When you feel it's time to start putting on a little more, timing pressure and, creating some urgency somehow, then do it. But don't do it too quickly. And then be someone they're proud to work with. Someone they would want to introduce to their other portfolio companies. Someone they'd want to, go on social media and brag about. Be that person. And then lastly, few tricks of the trade here. Associates are not useless. Okay, associates are very useful. They can be the younger person in the room during a partners meeting that is really banging their fist on a table and saying, I use this app all the time and it's awesome and all my friends use it and it's great, you trust me on this. Or they can do the exact opposite and say, I didn't like that guy because he reminded me of this one thing that failed and whatever. And it may be right or wrong, but the partners will listen to them. So don't treat associates like they don't matter, ever. They do matter. And oftentimes, they can introduce you to the partners before you've pitched in a way that sets you up right. And that's really important. It gets the meeting going the right way. Silly thing, but try and meet later in the week if possible. Most funds do their partners meetings on Mondays, and the ones we met on Friday, we remember better than the ones we met earlier in the week. I don't know if that's, I'll have to go back and look if that is actually statistically relevant in terms of what we ended up investing in. Maybe I'll do that study. But, there's certainly, a better recall on Monday for the ones we met later in the week. Don't over-negotiate. If you get into kind of what the terms would look like, what the round size look like, you shouldn't be so set in what you had in your mind when you walked into that room. Okay, because different funds like to do things different ways. And I think you should be open during that conversation. It also shows, you're going to be somebody that we can work with. This isn't about trying to negotiate the single best deal that we can get from you. It's more trying to figure out what's right for the business. How does the cadence work? What's the right amount you should raise to get to a good Series B place to make enough progress? Do the founders and the rest of the team have enough equity? Is there an options pool created where you can recruit enough people that you're going to need? Is this the right amount of capital? Is it too much so it's going to create too high of a valuation later? All these things are going through our mind, and because this might have been the first time you've gone through this, you might not automatically see all those things. Let us talk it out with you and just be open to that conversation. And then later you'll usually go back and think about it and realize there are a few different ways you could do the Series A, and some funds might like to do it different ways than us, but be open to that. If you over negotiate and try and stick to the one thing you had in your mind when you walked in the room, you're probably going to lose. Telling a really big but believable story. Okay, we're going for huge exits here. We're looking for the companies that are going to be outliers. We want to think that you're going for that grand slam, but you can actually do it. Okay, the more I would rather you build a very pitch me a company that can become $1 billion company, but it's really believable, than one that can become a $50 billion company, but I have a very hard time believing that it's ever going to happen. Okay. Lower the perceived risk any way you can. VCs are looking for reasons to say no. We see, roughly, 150 deals a month that come in and actually pitch us, and we'd say yes to one every 6 weeks roughly. So it's pretty easy sometimes, even if it's not intentional, to say no pretty quickly to companies because they don't hit some of these criteria, and then they're just not going to get there. And it's easier to kind of push them off and focus on the ones that you think are hitting all the criteria. So look for ways to kind of get rid of the reasons they can say no, get risk off the table. Learn from every meeting you have. You might want to, when you start pitching, pitch some of the funds you think are actually less likely to get to yes, because it really trains you better. Just like this incubator is training you in fantastic ways. The more real world pitches you do, you're going to get better every time. And afterwards, you should have a meeting with your co-founders and digest what just happened. Learn the feedback from the investors. Adapt the presentation. Adapt how you deliver it, and you'll be better the next time. And then, look, this is the best free advice and help you're ever going to get these meetings. So get it. Ask for ideas, ask for referrals, ask for customers, ask for anything you can, because you'll get it. Because they're going to want to see, like, how okay, if I send a customer your way, what happens? Does the customer sign up? Are they happy? If I tell a potential biz dev guy, I know you have that role open, you're trying to hire, to take a look at this company, maybe that ends up being your VP of biz dev. Right, so use us, and that will again show us what the relationship will be like going forward. And then lastly, just have a good time. I mean, the ones that it's just an enjoyable conversation, and it's just fun, and it's flowing, and everyone's happy and in a good mood. Those are the ones that we tend to have the longest conversations about on Mondays. So just enjoy the whole process. It's a amazing thing to be going through. And when you succeed, it feels really good, and just enjoy the the journey along the way. Happy to take any questions on any of this stuff. I went through it really quickly, so.
It's amazingly comprehensive, and it gave me a lot of ideas. What's a company that came in that you said no to that is now tremendously successful, and when you run them through this, you sort of reassess maybe some of the advice? So give us some of your anti-portfolio.
Oof.
And just a couple. We're all friends here. Things you missed. Yeah.
Yeah, okay. So,
and then maybe the
I hate
why
talking
you
about
missed
the
it.
ones we missed.
What's that?
I said I hate talking about the ones we missed.
It's okay. Did you meet
know,
with Uber? Did you meet with
Recent one.
Airbnb?
Recent one we said no to last year was Laurel and Wolf, who has since gone on to get tons of customers and raise a successful Series B.
Which one was that?
Laurel and Wolf. They help everyone get interior designers online, and they set up things for them. And
so when you look back on that, why did you disqualify them and/or not feel super compelled? What did they fail, and how does that sort of retrain your thinking?
Yeah.
Or was
For
it
us,
another partner of yours who?
There was a lot we liked, and they got really close. The product at the time was not good enough, and I guess what we failed. I guess whether it was our failing or their failing at the time, probably a little bit of both. The conversation did not lead to exactly how the product was going to evolve into something that would scale. And then we used the product, and it just didn't work for us. And if anything, it was probably our failing on not taking a bigger leap of faith on how the entrepreneur would adjust and iterate along the way, because we really did like the entrepreneur.
The
so in
product
that case,
simply
it was
didn't
more
work
about the business than it was the entrepreneur.
The business didn't work well enough. The product didn't.
The product didn't.
It'd be like if you used Uber in the early days and the car didn't come.
Right.
Which wasn't the case, but something like that on an execution basis.
And then I passed on Kickstarter. That one.
Explain that one.
They were super early when they pitched us, and it was focused on things. They went in a much broader direction, but they were focused on like things that the city of New York would need to raise money for. Right. And
they didn't understand how people would use their tool.
I don't think, maybe they did understand it, but they didn't articulate it well enough at the time on how broad it could get. Right. And again, these big ones that turned out huge and we passed on are probably just as much our failings as they were theirs. That was a long time ago when they pitched us, so I don't remember all the details.
Got it. Okay, questions? Go ahead, Simon.
One of the founders that I talked to sort of before our original fundraising process told me that the lead on his seed round never even touched his product, which I found was kind of interesting. Do you play with all the products you see? If it's not your demographic, do you still try? What's that process, and how do you view the product itself?
Usually at least someone in our office does, if not a few of us. But it doesn't surprise me with seed deals that would happen, because a lot of times with seed deals, it's purely the entrepreneur. It's purely this guy is going to thrive somehow, and he may or may not have it figured out right now, but he's going to iterate along the way and get there. And it's only $25,000 or $50,000, so I'm going to take a bet on that guy. So it's not surprising. And look, it's hard to try SaaS products. Sometimes, I mean, some of these things they just don't apply to you. So it's dating apps might be, we would have the single guy in our office try it. Other things are just hard. But we would probably, instead of just relying on and this is a corollary to the Laurel and Wolf example. Instead of just relying on our one experience with it, what's more valuable is trying to talk to as many people that have actually used it, their actual customers, as possible, and get real feedback on what it was like for them, because they are the actual demographic that should be using it, and they went through it.
Great. Another question. Let's go to another question.
Yep.
Go ahead.
So you said to start early building these relationships. Does that mean that we should be talking to Series A people now, even though we're not at the stage where we're raising our Series A?
It's not something you have to do. I'm saying it can be helpful, right? So if we know each other now, and I see your week 12 presentation, and it's that much better, and you start to get more user data, and you send me a couple updates, not every day, but like every couple months, hey, just wanted you to know, here's what's going on with it, and we're going to be pitching in about 4 months. And then you reach out to me in 4 months. I'm going to go back and look at those emails, and I'm going to remember our conversations. I'm going to remember your pitch here, and I'm coming in much more educated to that first meeting than if I had never met you. So it's up to you.
I think it's wise. We have a lot of folks in our first and second class of the incubator who took the time to meet with VCs early. And then all of a sudden, now it's a year later, and they've had 3 meetings. And things are not a no. They're a let's keep talking. And really what you're trying to do is, as Mark Susser said, is connect the dots to make that line, right? So you're building credibility along the way. Go ahead, Elizabeth.
So Jason said on an older TWiST that he finds it really off-putting when a CEO doesn't lead an investment conversation. We like to roll deep to our meetings and just have everyone speak. Do you have any tactical advice on who should be presenting in the meeting and how the flow should work?
I think the CEO does need to be the CEO. It does get confusing when too many people are talking and you're not sure who's really running the company. But I'm fine with other people jumping in, especially on their areas of expertise. But you kind of want to get a feel for how is the company actually managed. And also, my personal pet peeve is when people come in and they're both called founder and you don't know who the CEO is and they don't know who the CEO is, and that's going to end up being an issue at some point.
That's a red flag, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah. Co-CEO, even bigger red flag.
Yep.
Now you've
and
institutionalized.
married couple, automatic no.
That's why you missed Eventbrite.
Yeah, well, yeah.
Right. I mean, it almost never works, and once in a while it does. Yeah. But when people come in with a co-CEO, it's basically like they're institutionalizing the dysfunction. They're like, this is a dysfunctional relationship. We're not even aware of the fact that everybody sees this as a red flag. Or we're aware everybody sees this as a red flag, and we're going to just do a big fuck you to everybody and say, we don't care that everybody in the world has determined that co-CEOs never work, they never have worked, they never will work. Therefore, we would like to challenge everybody. We're going to put a giant roadblock up and a huge red flag. We're going to walk in with 2 red flags, right? Like, whoever's the best communicator and the best leader, be CEO. Whoever's the best technical person, be CTO. Whoever's the best salesperson, be the CMO, director of sales, president, whatever.
So when you say the CEO should be talking, does that apply to mainly the presentation or to questions too?
No, I don't want the CEO to be the only person that can answer questions. If there's a question specifically about a sales strategy and the VP of sales is in the room, it's great if they take it. But the CEO runs the show. They're the conductor of the meeting. Okay, so they should be doing the presentation. They should be, if it's the VP of sales that should answer that question, it's almost like the CEO allows him, suggests that they answer. And then if there's anything they need to fill in, they fill in.
In a functional company, the CEO would be the one to direct the question. Right. So even if you were in the room and it was one of you have chosen to be the CEO, one of you has chosen to be the chief product officer, when they bring up product, of course the product officer would answer it, but the CEO is saying, that's best left, to Bryce. He runs product. Yeah. That's the proper sort of order of command,
Should we be doing that kind of thing here too, or is it more important?
I think here you're kind of co-founders as young companies, so I don't know that it necessarily matters. I think when one founder looks over the other and says, it kind of shows the investor who's here, like, oh yes, they know that this person can give a better answer. It actually shows like confidence, actually.
One thing, the flip side of that is we don't want anyone in the room to be a wallflower. If somebody is in the room and never says one word, bad. Like, don't even bring them if that's going to be the case.
Yeah, why are they here? Yeah.
No.
Rolling up with too many people also, I think, is a bit of a red flag.
Totally. Yeah,
it's usually 1, 2, or 3 people come to these things. When the 4th person comes, the 5th person comes, it's like, okay, this company is so dysfunctional that the 3rd, 4th, and 5th person in the company feels if they don't go to meet with Jed, then the meeting, they got left out. Right.
Also, this is a silly thing, but sit on the same side of the conference table. There are people that they'll come in with 3 or 4 people and they'll all take different seats spread out. It's like a funky thing they're trying to do. And it makes the conversation so awkward.
Show up 15 minutes early. Always good.
So you can choose your seat.
Yeah, exactly. Another question? Go ahead, Simon. Let's wrap this up here. Jed's got to go to his dinner.
Not an example of an amazing founder, but probably an amazing fundraiser was Lucas Duplan from Klinkle, and he famously brought Mark and Ben from Andreessen to his office. He told them, "I'm not going to Menlo Park. You come to me."
How'd that work out?
Well, I think they ended up investing $5 million plus in the seed round, which is pretty amazing. And they actually said, at the time, it was one of the most courageous moves by a founder to say, no, your fancy office in Menlo Park isn't good enough for me. What are your thoughts on that kind of story? Like, do you see that happen?
If you're going to be that cocky, you better be that good.
Okay.
How did it work out with Clinkle?
Well, Clinkle ended up...
Never launching?
Yeah, Clinkle ended, $30 million seed round, product kind of big. I'm trying to remember the entire story. Well, so for one, the founder took a picture with $100,000 cash, and that went out all over the internet.
Oh, geez. See, that guy, no. I'd be running the other way from that.
This was a 2013 flop.
Yeah.
It's way back in Silicon Valley history at this point. But
That's a guy who's going to have such a big ego. He is going to blow so much capital.
Well, it's going to be very hard for them to step away from a mistake, too. Like, oh, we're going in the wrong direction. Like, great, let's go over the waterfall. You know, like they're literally, oh, we're going faster. You know, this is awesome.
I just pulled up an article that says Clinkle implodes as employees quit in protest of CEO.
Yeah.
Wow.
So
that's interesting.
Listen, if
that's not surprising. I mean, it's, look, you can't be an arrogant prick when you're raising money. It doesn't work. Right? It works.
It's kind of like beyond disrespectful. I mean, even as my stature went up in the world, I always deferred to the person writing the check and said, what would be the best time? Where would you like to meet? Was there anything I can prepare? How long would you like to meet for? You kind of got to be a little bit humble of that because the person's writing a check and they're putting their LP's money or their own on the line. That's just a weird, I mean, if there was a justification for coming, if they said, we have the robot here in the room. We really want you to see the robot. So if there's any way you can come see the robot, we can't bring the robot to you because it has lasers and swords.
You should also do that for second meetings, right? If you want them to come to your office, suggest it in the first meeting. You should come over, meet the team, see the operation.
And there's a way to say it too, right? Like, we would really enjoy hosting you at our office to meet the team. Like, most intelligent investors, when people pull that kind of like weird stuff, they don't find it charming. It's just not charming. Like if you're Zuckerberg and you have incredible metrics, and Sean Parker puts you up to showing up in pajamas or something and being a dick at a meeting, like it's like some weird aberration that happened once in the history of the Valley with the biggest, most successful company in the last 10 years. It's not a trend, I don't think. One more question? Everybody's good? Jed, you have been relieved of duty. This was amazing. It's super helpful.
Cool.
And so at scale, we like to have a range of speakers. We have the billionaire unicorn speakers, the David Saxes, the Tony Hsiehs, and then we also have the people who are maybe doing their A round or B round and are getting through that part of the process. Kyle Hill is with HomeHero, and he is one of the most exceptional young founders in the industry. He writes, and his partner at HomeHero, write a weekly update, not only for their team, but for all of their investors, which is hands down the best written update that I've ever received from any startup company, and that has enabled him to raise a seed round, an A round, and a B round, I think. And the business has grown tremendously. And today he's going to talk about building a culture of growth. Let's hear it for Kyle.
Hey guys. My name's Kyle Hill, and I'm the founder and CEO of HomeHero, and I'm super excited to be here. I'm here under the pretense that everybody here, hypothetically, is past the idea stage, you're past product market fit, and you have at least some healthy appetite for growth. And I always joke with my friends, the only way your startup dies is you run out of money. And the only way you run out of money is you stop growing. The only sign of life is growth. This is literally NASA's definition, working definition of growth. It's like metabolism, reproduction, and growth. And so I believe that one of the most important or the best predictors of growth is your company culture. So I'm going to talk today about company culture. But first, let me tell you a little bit about HomeHero. HomeHero is the fastest and most affordable way for families to find non-medical in-home senior care. We are the largest funded startup in the senior care space. We are servicing over 4 cities, 19 counties. We have 1,500 caregivers on our platform, and we provided over 1 million hours of home care over the last 2 years. But 18 months ago, we looked like that. And I still look like that if I shave my beard, believe it or not. And we really didn't know what we were doing. We were solving our own niche. A lot of the early stages in the company was started from me just solving a lot of the problems for my own father, finding home care. We were lucky enough to get investment from a man named Chamath, who was one of the early executives at Facebook. He really led their growth team, put them on a path toward 1 billion users, and was hugely influential in building the growth culture that exists today at Facebook. And one of the traditions of Chamath, when he puts investment into a company, is he will take the founders to dinner. So he took us to dinner, and we had a conversation about growth. And he dropped a couple knowledge bombs on us, and this is one of the biggest takeaways that he said. He said, growth is getting people in the door, delivering an aha moment as quickly as possible, then delivering value as frequently as possible. And then he paused, and he said, but that all goes down the tank if your culture sucks. And he said, do you have company culture? I said, yeah, of course. I said, every Friday we have a trivia on Slack. And it's some silly thing like how many hot dogs were eaten in Dodger Stadium in the last year. The winner gets $5 in Bitcoin. And I said, that's culture. And he said, no, that's not culture. And I said, okay, well, it's honesty, respect, hard work. He said, no. He said, you clearly don't have your company culture yet, and that's okay. So here's what he suggested that we do. He said, take the whole team and go to somewhere really far away. We picked Lake Tahoe. This is a real picture from our balcony in Lake Tahoe with your team, and have a 2 to 3 day team retreat. And don't leave until you come back with 7 to 8 value statements that you live by, that you swear by. And these value statements are so important that they will be the guiding principles for your entire company. So they'll guide you through the brightest and darkest days of your company. They'll help you in hiring decisions. He said at Facebook, when they were deciding to terminate an employee, they would literally grade every single employee based on each of these core company values, A through F, and make their hiring or termination decisions. So this is how important they were. So what I'm going to do today is I'm going to talk to you about the 7 principles that we swear by at HomeHero and why they're important and how they've contributed to our growth. Number 1 is focus on long-term success. In the early days, we did a lot of things that didn't scale, and that was okay. We had Google Docs organizing all sorts of information. We were firing right into the FTP of the website. It was driving our CTO crazy. But we had an understanding of how things would evolve over time and how we would build scalable processes as we grew. One of the most frustrating things as a marketplace, especially one dealing with an older demographic, is we couldn't accept checks, right? We couldn't accept checks. We didn't do invoicing. Everything was on credit cards. And you couldn't sign up for HomeHero unless you had an email address. And so one of the most frustrating things for our sales department was to actually turn down clients because they didn't have the technology to use our platform. And so this was only a small percentage, like 5 or 10%, but it was still very frustrating. And so what I told them, and I said, guys, you've got to focus on long-term success. And really believe in our business model. You really have to believe that our business model is scalable and that it will work. So the next one, number 2, is fearlessly contribute new ideas. We use Trello. I love Trello. We've used it from day one. We still use it. What we do is we encourage all the employees, whenever they have a new idea or anything, to throw their ideas onto the Trello board, right? And we have all these lists. There's sales and engineering and marketing, and literally the more ideas on there, the better. We have a Trello thrashing party every Tuesday at noon, where you go in there for 10 minutes, you throw the craziest ideas on there, and you let our product managers really just sift them out. Every single engineering ticket started as a Trello ticket. So the crazier the ideas, the better. And Trello, whether it's Google Docs or Trello or anything else, you have to organize creativity. And this is a way that we organize creativity. So one of the core values that we live by is fearlessly contribute new ideas. The other one that we use here are surveys. You've hired all these smart people. You might as well use them. I love SurveyMonkey. Probably once or twice a week, I'll just fire up a SurveyMonkey and set an @channel everybody on Slack and say, hey guys, what do you think about this new crazy retention feature, right? And you'll get immediate feedback within minutes from your smartest employees. And I just don't think that a lot of companies really tap those resources frequently enough. So those are 2 ways that we encourage our employees to fearlessly contribute new ideas. Number 3 is have higher expectations for yourself than others do for you. I am the top marketplace expert in this room. And maybe Leah and Marco, they disagree, and maybe I'm completely wrong, but I have to hold myself to that standard. I obsess about marketplaces. I've gone through every single marketplace onboarding session that I could get my hands on. I'm a Lyft driver, I'm an Uber driver, I'm a TaskRabbit, I'm a courier for Postmates, I'm a ninja on Washio. Actually, I got declined from TaskRabbit, I don't know why, but every single one of them that I could get my hands on, I went and attended those onboarding sessions and really used that to curate what is now our onboarding session for caregivers, which I would argue is the most sensitive of those marketplaces, because you're sending someone in alone to care for your mother or father for days on end. It could not be anything that needs to be curated more than that. And so I obsess about marketplaces, whether it's on Quora or Twitter or anything else. And we look for employees at HomeHero that have that just odd obsession over what they do. They're not driven by money. They're driven by this weird obsession with what they do. Maybe it's engineering, maybe it's sales, but they love it so much that if you took their salary away, they might still do it for you. So have higher expectations for yourself than others do for you. Number 4 is focus on building real value over perceived value. We have an open vacation policy. I'm sure most startups, I would argue, do, but it's really important to understand why. And the reason is we put more emphasis on the output than we do the input. We put more emphasis on the output than the input on all the KPIs. I don't care if you make 400 phone calls in a day if you're a salesperson. I care that you close 40 clients. And Netflix is one of the perfect examples of this. They kind of coined the phrase, hard work is irrelevant. And I was listening to an NPR segment recently on Netflix, and they were talking about some of their company culture and values. And they gave this really awesome example, and maybe some of you heard it, about a locksmith. And they said there's this amateur locksmith that would take about an hour to pick people's locks. He would show up, the woman's locked out of her car, take about an hour to pick the lock. She gives him $200, and she gets back on her way. But as he got better and better and better, he could actually do it in under 60 seconds. He would show up, and he could actually pick the lock in under 60 seconds, and they give him the $200, and the woman says, that's a ripoff, right? He said, you just did that in 60 seconds, I feel like I got ripped off. And he says, actually, I'm the best locksmith in the city, and I got you into your car faster than anyone else could get you into your car. I think we have this blocker in our head that we obsess about the amount of time it takes to do something and not focus enough on the actual output. And so at HomeHero, we put a lot of emphasis on the output, not the input. In college, I was forced to read this book by Gary Chapman called Love Languages. Actually, I just followed a cute girl into an emotional intelligence class, and it actually ended up being a really valuable class. And one of the things that I learned in this class was that the way that you acknowledge accomplishments from your employees is really important. So Gary Chapman basically said there were 5 love languages, right? And it was like gifts, words of affirmation, acts of service, quality time, and physical touch, like a high five or a hug. And it might sound cheesy, and it's very useful for relationships, but it's really important for your startups and for your employees. If you have an engineer that is all about quality time, and you can do tests to find out which of these is yours. You usually have like 1 or 2 that stand out. And if you find that you have an engineer that's quality time, and they just completed a really awesome new feature, maybe it's a new billing feature, do you at-channel everybody in the entire team and say, hey, this engineer did this awesome new thing? Or do you take them out to lunch and you just say, hey man, listen, I just wanted to tell you, like, I'm really appreciative of the work you did on that engineering sprint. Or do you give them a football from Amazon? Those are really important decisions that will help you retain your best talent in your company. And it's very important you actually understand what the love languages of your employees are. So focus on building real value over perceived value and know how to acknowledge that value after it's been given. Number 5 is challenge yourself to do the hard thing. We started out of an incubator called Science down in Los Angeles, and one of our sister companies was a marketplace that was about a year ahead of us. They were called Dog Vacay. Really awesome service, really smart CEO, Aaron. And they were at the point where they were doing about 1,000 bookings a day. And they got a phone call, and one of the hosts had lost a dog. And I mean, they have 4 legs, they run away, right? And you have 1,000 bookings a day, 0.01% of your dogs, you're gonna lose them, right? And so they freaked out, and they literally said, all right, guys, stop what you're doing, get the flashlights. It was like 7:30 at night. We're going to go look for this dog. Crazy enough, they found the dog, right? A few weeks later, it happened again. And it was crazy. And they're like, we need to build a process around this, right? And the same thing happens to us. We don't lose seniors, but occasionally they, no, not yet. But they do pass away. I mean, a lot of these are in their late 90s. And I would argue to pay attention to the employees that really step up when the going gets really tough. I remember the first time I had to talk to a son who called me and his father had died. It's the first time it ever happened to me, and I got the call. We were really early stage. And I remember our head of support, her name was Catherine, she stepped up and said, give me the phone. And Catherine comes from a background, she works for disaster relief at the Red Cross, and she lives for that. She says, I want to help him. Give me the phone. And those are the A players. And she owned this value statement. She challenged herself to do the hardest thing in the company, even in a moment when I didn't even feel like I could do it. And those are the employees that I want on my team. Number 6, treat every problem as an opportunity. Going back to Netflix, one of the most famous documents that exists in Silicon Valley is their culture doc, Netflix, and I refer to it a lot. And one of them said is, we are not a family, we're a team. We're not a pee-wee rec team, we're a professional sports team. And we need to act like that. And terminations suck. They're the least fun part of my job. But I think that you really have to look at it as an opportunity for that person to go find a place where they are a better fit. And the number one mistake that we made in the early stages is hanging on to employees too long when you know good and well that they're not going to work out. And let me give you advice. Do not move, don't change their department. If they're not working out in sales and you hired them to do sales, don't move them to marketing. They're just going to screw up marketing. You can go hire experts in marketing, and you can hire experts in sales. Don't move people around because you have a fun time on the weekends. And it was a hard thing for me to understand, but I've developed really good, long-lasting friendships with people that I've now terminated, and we're still friends. And it will work out, but I think you really have to give them the opportunity to move on. Don't get emotional with it. You really can't. Number 7, and then to the final one, is promote and protect our brand. This one I cannot stress enough. Your brand is everywhere. It is your NPS in the walking flesh. Your brand is everything about you. It is the way people say home hero when it comes out of their mouth. It is the first thing they think about when you say the name. It's your logo, it's your colors, it's the border radius. It's the number of padding between all of your on your titles. You can tell I'm a designer. I obsess about brand, but it goes so much farther than what you see on a page. It's the tidiness of your office. You know, it's the letterhead on your job offers. Your brand is everywhere. It's the most important thing, and it's how your brand speaks to people. So promote and protect our brand. If we see Home Hero anywhere written and it's got a space in between it, our employees will call that person out and say, hey, there's no space in Home Hero. So promote and protect our brand. The last one, I think this is the most important, and this is kind of what Jason was talking about with our weekly updates, is default to transparency. I think one of the number one most transparent companies is Buffer. I have a lot of respect for Joel and what those guys are doing over there. They went on to a whole new planet with transparency, and they publicized like all their salaries and equities of every single employee, which is crazy. And it really inspired me, but I didn't quite go that far. But I do believe that you really should adopt a transparent culture. We have all of the Slack channels are public. We have banned private groups on Slack. You cannot, we do some direct messaging, but really everything we encourage to be on the public channels. All of our financials information is on a Google Drive, with the exception of salary and equity, for every single employee to see. And the reason is I believe in this industry especially, the best way to build trust is to be transparent. And I believe the company that is going to innovate in the senior care space has to win trust. And the number one way to build trust is to be transparent. So, all in all, I hope that these values have, this presentation has really open your eyes to how important company culture is. They're not plaques on a wall. They're a doctrine. It's your constitution. It's everything that you live by. And hopefully it'll help you grow as faster than ever. Thank you.
And let's take one question from the chat room, if the chat room will load. Talk about the multiple cities that you're operating in and what your plan is for moving from city to city, because you're now in 2, right?
We're in 4.
We're in 4?
Yeah.
Oh, I gotta read those investor
you gotta
updates
read
better.
the updates.
Wait. You're in Los Angeles, San Francisco?
Well, Orange County has 4 million people, so that was our second launch. San Diego, and then the entire Bay Area.
Got it. And so what's the rollout plan for cities? And what have you learned from Uber, let's say, or other people who have gone city to city?
Yeah, I mean, we really rely on a matching algorithm. Marco was talking about it with Thumbtack. We really do have a very complex matching algorithm, and to get that right, you do need liquidity in the market, and so we seed markets many months before we actually launch them. But our growth strategy is really about focusing on these 4 markets in California right now, most likely to the end of the year, and then really taking a pretty aggressive rollout plan down the southern Sun Belt and into the more dense senior population areas. But right now, our focus is really on launching these four cities.
Can you tell us a little bit more about the process that helped you develop these values? That's from John C. McKintry.
The process to develop the values?
Yeah. I mean, I know you went on the retreat, but
yeah.
Maybe, did you just say, does anybody have a value they want to propose?
Yeah. I think there were a lot of exercises that we did over the course of during the retreat. The love languages test was one, but really we started by just a lot of open forums. It's just what is a company that you want to be a part of? We literally asked people, said, just write down on. We had like 4 or 5 whiteboards in this house, and just said, I want you to write down the perfect company is, and just write down a bunch of adjectives. And you'll see that there's these little clusters that start to happen around different words. And we started moving these around into clusters. And you can see that people want to be challenged, and they want a place where they're going to get their work acknowledged. And so what we found is you just had all these words on a board, and you start clustering them, and each one of them, really, of those, we formulated a value statement. So. And
a question from Reaper Capital. Connected marketplaces seem to struggle with reaching older people. This is your core audience or market. How do you reach them?
How do we reach?
I guess getting older people on the system.
Well, the reality is that we target the sons and daughters of the seniors. Very few of our clients are the actual seniors themselves. It's usually the baby boomers, son or daughters, and they are, in fact, a pretty technology-enabled generation. Most of them do have smartphones. There's some stragglers, of course, but most of them are pretty technology-enabled, and we offer mobile apps that allow them to have real-time connectivity in their home. And so it's not a difficult value prop. And you say, hey, look, if you download this app, you can see in real time what's going on in your home, an audio update or a video update or photos of your mother or father in the home. And it's a pretty compelling value statement, almost to the point where we've had families that have went and they purchased a smartphone just so they could have access to the real-time connectivity with their mother or father. So I really believe that we're moving the industry in the right direction.
Okay, let's hear it for Kyle from HomeHero.